The water has flooded over his shin. Sean walked over to where the cage once was and looked around in search for something. Sean, what are you looking for? Maya came to his side, feeling curious. My gun. Sean replied without lifting his head. It could have been washed away to somewhere else by the water, he said while searching through the water. Sean. That gun is not powerful enough to burst our way through the walls. Maya hauled him up from the water, not wanting him to waste his effort. Not to burst a hole. There's an energy converter within the gun. And there's the energy operator. I might be able to open the door with them. Sean was kneeling within the water while speaking, and as the water rises gradually, he dived into it without a second thought, searching. However, he could hardly see a thing in the murky water. He then felt a presence came beside him, and he saw a vague figure of the person's elegant features through the murkiness. A hand circled his waist and pulled him out from the water, firm and powerful. Ha! Sean gasped for air while wiping off the water from his face. Only then he noticed the person standing before him was Heine. Without a word, Heine handed out a gun to Sean as the water dripped down from his hair. No one has expected Heine, a stickler for hygiene, would help Sean to look for his gun in the murky water. Sean was overjoyed. Thank goodness. It's right here. What's your plan? There was no hesitance in Heine's eyes, as though he had long known whatever Sean does will work out. Sean shifted his gaze to the only door in the room. A faint red light was flashing above it. I need to reach that height. Yes. Colonel. With that, Mark heaved Sean onto his shoulder. His towering build helped Sean to reach the flashing light easily. He disassembled the gun and removed its power source and connects it to the electrical connector of the door. The water level has flooded over Mark's chest. Sean gritted his teeth and pulled the trigger. A loud bang sounded, but the door did not even budge. Damn it. So it didn't work? Mark let out a curse. Looking at the red light that went off above the door, Sean frowned. The door lock's disabled, but the door is jammed by the water's pressure. No ordinary man could push open the door under such water pressure, but the people trapped here with Sean are no ordinary man. What do you mean? Mark was still in the fog while Heine already had his blade out. Everyone, come and help. They used their blades as lever to pry open the door. Mark. Get over here and help. Mark lifted Sean down from his shoulders. Don't drown, kid. With that, he dived into the water. Only a low creak sound was heard. The door opened a slit. Mark's face reddened with the strain, and the blood vessels on his forehead popped out like knotted ropes. As the gap grew wider, the water within the confined space constantly pouring out through the open gap. Heine sent a signal as Reeve hauled Sean out from the water and pushed him out through the opening together with the flow of water, which sent him gush to distance. The water continued to pour out from the door. A few soldiers stood between the slight opening of the door and waited for the water to drop to their knee level before barging open the door all at once. Sean's heart shuddered. It's Heine Burton. He pressed on a switch and the moment the lifepod opens, he was lifted off the ground. Ah, just as Sean let out a yelp, he was struck with a moment of nausea when his stomach was roughly placed on Heine's shoulder. Is there really no other way than this position? Heine stepped onto the lifepod door with one leg and leapt. A zombie's finger grazed the tip of Sean's hair, as countless zombies chased from behind. Sean just realized he had landed in a place that was once a farmyard, surrounded by lushness, untended grass, and weathered fence, but not a single livestock. A souffle of clouds hover above them, casting a huge moving shadow upon the land. Meanwhile, 2 level 1 zombies were chasing close behind them. They are swift and agile despite their towering body. They dashed towards them with their strong and lengthy legs, with gooey slobber constantly dribbling from their mouth. It was a revolting sight and Sean is their perfect meal. Without warning, Sean was thrown to the ground. His hands scraped gravel when he supported himself from the ground, but he had no time for it as Heine flung the container with Manson's head inside right onto Sean, nearly knocking him out. Heine then turned around briskly and released the silver wings that went cutting through the 2 level 1 zombies. One of it lost its left leg and just as it stumbled from imbalance, Heine severed its head. Another one with a gashed right arm was regenerating. The zombie was gigantic. It nearly had Heine covered in its towering shadow when it stood before him. Heine leapt into the air with a brisk kick to its stomach, and before Sean could make out his movements, the zombie's recovering arm was slashed off, his knee crushed its jaw, and while the zombie was staggering backwards, Heine raised his left leg and kicked the over 150 kilogram zombie off the ground. Just as it lost its balance, off with its head. Heine turned and walked toward Sean as the gigantic body thumped onto the ground. Sean held his breath instinctively when he saw Heine's ice-cold gaze. Quickly, he scrambled to get up and felt a stinging pain from his ankle. He knows it's not just a sprain, but possibly a fracture. But he could only endure it, otherwise, if Heine were to find out he is injured, he may be left behind for being a burden. Sean was having all sorts of absurd thoughts until he felt a buzzing sensation on his arm. Then only he realized the gun Heine was using is a gun injector. Perhaps it's some kind of electrolyte, or maybe some peptides that can enhance a person's immune system. Sean no longer has a straight mind to ponder. Not long after, he drifted into deep slumber. In the middle of the night, Sean gradually woke up from his sleep. Stirring sideways in bed, he vaguely saw a person sitting beside him, leaning against the bed, arms folded. Sean then noticed the refreshing scent from the bed intermingles with the scent of the person perfectly. Despite not able to distinguish the features in the dark, he knows the one beside him is Heine Burton. This man is actually taking care of him. He did not abandon him for being a burden, nor did he show a hint of impatience. He's not as scary as I've imagined. As his eyes slowly adjusted to the dark, Sean managed to pick out a vague shape of his sharp features. I need to pee. Sean had a sudden urge to bang his head on the wall after saying that out loud. He actually said the word pee in front of Heine. Though he really does want to pee. Toilet was obviously not an amenity that can be found in a small windproof tunnel, and with Heine being a stickler for hygiene, peeing anywhere in the room is not an option. In his case, he's probably going to open the door and throw Sean right out. But a deserted grassland in the middle of the night is crawling with danger. Just as Sean was worrying and anxious, Heine opened an empty bottle and handed it to Sean. If you ever spill a drop, I'll cut the whole thing off. Sean took over the bottle in bewilderment. He wants me to use this bottle to pee? The size of its opening is certainly not wide. Sean sighed in defeat. This is considered much better than being thrown out of the tunnel. He convinced himself. Sean breathed out a sigh of relief and closed the bottle. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door, making Sean tensed up all over again. But Heine opened the door without even questioning the person outside. Oh, my God. Reached the contact point at last. It was Maya, and behind him were a starry sky and vast deserted grassland that stretched into the horizon. Maya locked the door behind him, turned around and gave Sean a great big hug that nearly had him stifled. Oh, my dear Sean, glad to see you're alive. I was so worried that boss would have left you to suffocate to death in the escape pod. I've encountered so many zombies on my way here. Oh, and 2 assassins from the tides. But of course, they're all killed off by me. Ha, it's just you and boss? The others are not here yet? Sean, still with the bottle in hand, gave an awkward laugh. He too had worried he would be left stifled in the pod by Heine. What's this? Water? Maya took the bottle in Sean's hand and twisted open. I'm dying from dehydration. Don't. Before Sean could stop him, Maya already tipped the bottle to his mouth. Why does the water smell funny? And it's still warm? Maya asked warily. That's his urine, Heine replied flatly. Maya's hand shuddered for a second before closing the bottle with a smile and placed it on the coffee table. My dear, I know you missed me so much, but you have such remarkable way of showing it. Ha ha, Sean laughed dryly. There's no toilet in the windproof tunnel. Oh, boss is just being mean. I would have accompanied you out there, and right after you're done, we can have a pleasant time lying on the ground, and with some random zombies leaping out once in a while to add in some thrill to it. Sean felt sudden shiver ran down his spine and took a few steps back. No thanks. Moments after, Reeve and Mark arrived as well. Seeing Sean all well and safe, Reeve sighed in relief. She was so worried that Sean would get too anxious and open the pod before they get to him. The once empty space became lively with the additional people that joined in, especially with the same incident happening to Mark, who nearly drank the bottle of liquid placed on the table. At the end, Sean snatched the bottle from Mark and threw it out from the tunnel. Reeve and the others sat around the coffee table, eating hardtacks, and discussing their next move for tomorrow. Clearly, they need an aircraft if they wish to head back to the base or Charles. But the nearest aircraft they can get to is located at Platform 42. Based on the holographic map projected from the communication device, Platform 42 is roughly 6 hours walk from their current location. Of course, 6 hours of walk is the time needed for Special Force soldiers, not for Sean. Get some rest. Heine, who was sitting on the sofa, voiced suddenly. Yeah, go get some rest, tomorrow's gonna be a long day. Maya turned to Sean and blinked at him. Sean laid down on the bed quietly. To be honest, there's nothing he could do to help, all he can do is avoid acting as a burden to them. He tugged the sheet over his shoulder and drifted to sleep once again. There's no point worrying about what will happen tomorrow. While Sean was half asleep, several soldiers arrived at the tunnel. With that, Heine's Special Force unit has finally gathered. Between his sleep, Sean felt someone stroke the back of his head. "Hey, wake up, we're leaving." Sean turned around and saw Reeve standing by the bed. "Oh, and before I forget, thanks for the fixer-upper on Silverwings, they've never been better. Not only can it be retrieved safely, but also increased in damage." "You did great," Reeve said with a smile. It seems that Sean has misunderstood their meaning of walk. Clearly, the so-called walk to Sean is significantly different from the walk claimed by Special Force soldiers. The moment he stepped out from the tunnel, he saw two soldiers sprinted off at full speed. "Mark," Heine called with just a lift of his chin. Mark went and lifted Sean over his shoulder without a word. "No, don't. Stop carrying me over the shoulder. I'm gonna die." Foreseeing himself having to have a long bumpy trip with his head upside down, Sean immediately voiced his objection. Mark carried Sean on his back grudgingly. They advanced in full speed. Fortunately, the path they took was far from the city, avoiding them from being swarmed by zombies. Mark continued to dart forward whenever a zombie approached him, as though they were invisible to him, while both Maya and Reeve running beside him got rid of it. Sean knew Reeve have great skills, but when he saw Maya releasing his thin wire into complex turns, cutting a level 1 zombie into bits with just a tug of his hand, Sean stared in surprise. Sean had to admit. Maya, with his long hair tied to the back while emitting a bloodthirsty aura, the discordant of his woman-like appearance and the great strength he wields, had made him even more attracting. However, Sean is not going to be deceived by him. "No, thank you." Sean held on to Mark firmly. Mark's shoulders are really broad, his hands supported Sean's legs with ease. As long as it's a task Heine assigned him, he will complete it without fail. Despite sprinting at such great speed, Sean could feel Mark's heartbeat and breathing remain steady and consistent, showing no signs of fatigue. The sound of wind gushing by his ears and on his face was pleasant and relieving to Sean. However, such pleasantness did not stay long. They were spotted by one of the Tides organization's aircraft. A laser missile exploded beside them. Sean was flung off the shoulder when Mark fell to the down, and as his head was about to dip into a mire, someone scooped him up. It was Heine. Briskly, he assembled his gun and nodded at Maya. Sean felt a tacit understanding between the two. Maya dashed forward at an inhuman speed, assembling his gun as he runs. He then turned around suddenly. His first shot landed on the bulk of the aircraft's left engine, leaving a spark. The aircraft found Maya as a threat and had him locked on as their main target. The gun assigned to the Special Task Force has a penetrating force that could pierce through titanium with high density. However, it is beyond question that a challenging task like shooting down an aircraft can only be done when the aircraft is flying low over the land. Meanwhile, Heine went under the aircraft and fired 3 continuous shots at the same area of the bulkhead. Suddenly, its left wing lowered abruptly. Sean then realized the area that was shot by Heine was the cockpit. The aircraft fired mindlessly as it lowers to the ground, blasting and burning the field. Luckily, Mark hauled Sean off the ground on time, otherwise, he would have been blasted into bits. Grasping an instant of opportunity, Heine strikes its right engine with great speed. However, before the aircraft came in contact with the ground, numerous assassins in gray combat suit leapt off from the open cabin door. Sean gasped in astonishment. This was his first encounter with the assassins from the Tides. His knowledge of these people remained stagnant on what was portrayed in news statements in Charles. They are ruthless and brutal, heartless creatures that had assassinated numerous military and political notables of Charles. Just as the assassins landed, Reeve released her Silverwings. They evaded with great agility, leaving only scratches but not a single fatal wound. There are 8 of them in Heine's unit, but the enemy has more than 10. Clearly, they are in disadvantage. Heine was beset by 3 foes, as though they knew he would be the troublesome one to handle. Heine's team have to get rid this troop of foes as soon as possible before their reinforcements arrive. Maya, Mark, Reeve, bring Sean with you and break through the encirclement. With Heine's order, Maya lifted Sean over his shoulder and started breaking through the encirclement with a blade in one hand without looking back. Following him were Mark and Reeve, close behind, darting to the direction of Platform 47. Sean only caught a final glimpse of Heine's blade piercing through one of the assassin's chest while another one was sent flying with a brisk spiral kick. "We're leaving them behind, just like that?" Maya gave a light chuckle. "Don't worry, dummy, he's Heine Burton. The person that could kill him is yet to be born in this world." Sean ran past the 2 assassins without looking back. He could feel something closing into his neck from behind, followed by several clings and clashes. He figured that the attack was blocked off by Maya. On his way to the control room, a zombie wandering at the passageway spotted Sean and chased after him. Damn it! What rotten luck! Sean ran with all his might. He knows he can't hope for Maya to save him this time. He could only pray that the door to the control room is opened, otherwise, without the authority to unlock, he's going to end up becoming the zombie's meal. Sensing the zombie getting closer and closer, Sean strained all his muscles to put on a spurt. He has never been faster in his whole life. Labored breathing and racing heartbeats no longer matter. The only concern is to survive. Sean sees a silver lining in his desperate situation when he caught a glimpse of the wide-open door of the control room. Faster. I need to be faster. Using the momentum, he slid through the door into the control room, quickly turned around and pressed the button by the door. The zombie tried to squeeze through the narrowing gap but was stuck between the closing doors. It placed both of its hands by the sliding doors, attempting to force himself through. Sean's heart was pounding. With a sudden surge of courage, he opened the emergency armory to find that most of the weapons are taken away, leaving only a gun and a sharp-edged knife. Without further hesitation, Sean grabbed the knife and darted towards the struggling zombie. He could not see the menacing look on his face, as all he could think of is to survive. In the first swing of his knife, he cut off the zombie's arms that were stretching towards him. Pus spattered onto his body, his mind went blank. Thereafter, he wields the knife once again and swings it onto the zombie's neck. He could not remember the sensation of it, as the zombie's head fell off. The knife slipped through his trembling hands and dropped to the ground. Taking a deep breath, Sean raised his leg and kicked the torso of the headless zombie from the door, and the door slid close. With no further time to think, Sean sat down and put on the terminal connector. This was his first time to connect to a terminal for military use. "Keep calm, Sean. You've learned this. You can do it," he said to himself. Sending the command to connect, Sean's mind was instantly connected to countless databases that are interconnected. In an instant, the platform that was once defunct came back to life. Sean had successfully formed a connection with Base 2. "This is Platform 47. I'm Sean, an apprentice from Central Academy of Science. ID 1665. In mission with Colonel Heine Burton's unit. We've been ambushed by 3 aircrafts of the Tides during the mission to rescue Major General Manson. Our aircraft has been destroyed. Request to send in aircraft for support. Apprentice Sean, please report the current situation." Sean nearly burst into tears of joy when he received a reply from the liaison officer. After regulating his breathing, he reported the current situation systematically. "All right, please remain calm. The Central is sending the Special Task Unit for reinforcements. Expected to arrive in an hour." Sean closed his eyes and breathed out a long sigh of relief. As the connection ended, he turned on the surveillance monitor screen of the passageways and saw a terror-stricken sight. Just as Maya stopped one of the assassins' attack, another's blade came slashing towards him, swift and savagely, onto Maya's left shoulder. Maya pays no heed to the pain and continued to press further towards the enemy in front of him, and pierce through the opponent's abdomen. However, it was hardly lethal. Maya then shoved the opponent off with a kick while the other assassin behind him slashed towards his healing left shoulder once again. Maya turned around as though he feels no pain, and the moment his left shoulder was severed by the opponent, he swung the dagger in his right arm together with the momentum of the turn and cut off the opponent's head. Sean was stunned. He stared at Maya's bleeding left shoulder through the surveillance camera, and then his eyes shifted to the lifeless left arm lying on the ground. The world was covered in blood. Damn it. Keeping a cool head, Sean closed off the nodes within the passageways, secluding all the zombies that are wandering within the platform. Thereafter, he took off the terminal, grabbed the gun laying in the armory. He activated the gun power, turned on its autolock system and darted out from the control room. The moment he rushed over to where Maya is, he caught sight of Maya swinging his dagger towards the opponent's neck at the speed of light. And just as Sean thought that the attack was inescapable, Maya staggered slightly from imbalance caused by his lost arm. With that moment of pause, the opponent blocked Maya's landing attack. However, Maya went with the flow and pressed further onto the opponent's blade instantly, chopping off the opponent's left arm. The opponent tripped from the force, and without warning, he swung his right arm and cut off Maya's ankle the moment he fell. Maya collapsed to the ground, covered in blood. "Maya!" Sean screamed while rushing over to him. The assassin staggered to his feet, raising his right arm, preparing to slash towards Maya's neck. Sean lifted his hand and activated the gun before firing a shot at the assassin who he had his target locked on. The opponent swiftly reflected his bullet with a swing of his blade. "I told you not to leave the room, didn't I?" Maya yelled at Sean in anger. Ignoring his reproach, Sean fired another 3 consecutive shots at the opponent without much thinking. The opponent continued to reflect all his shots precisely despite losing an arm. "Stay calm, Sean." Sean took a deep breath. In his next shot, Sean aimed for his right arm. As the bullet was targeted from a completely different angle than previous shots, the opponent was taken off guard and lost the opportunity to block off the bullet. And just as he attempted to evade it swiftly with a time lag, Sean took aim at his head and fired his last shot. Bang! The assassin's head blasted into bits, leaving his standing body that flopped onto the ground with a low thump seconds after. Sean stood there, still in his shooting position, shoulders shuddering. "Have you received firearm training?" Maya asked wearily, leaning against the wall. Sean finally snapped back to his senses and rushed over to Maya. This fellow greeted Sean with a smile despite losing an arm and a leg. "This type of gun is a rare find, only an instructor has it." "Where did you get it?" "Only an instructor has it?" "Then. The one that Reeve gave me." "That's boss's. I'd never thought that he'll give you his own gun as well." "Hey, don't just stand there, care to lend me a hand here?" Maya tried to support himself to his feet with the blade in his right hand as Sean scampered over to help. When Maya placed his body weight on him, Sean nearly tripped. "I don't see any zombies." "You're quite a lucky fellow. I've closed off the nodes of the passageways that are wandered by zombies." "You're the lucky one, not me. It just happens that there are no zombies on the passage leading from here to the control room," Sean said through gritted teeth as while proceeding with Maya on his back. "I do remember that I've told you to stay put in the control room until someone comes to rescue, otherwise, you mustn't open the door." "Yes, you did. I'm a major and you're just a reserve soldier. You've violated the order issued by your superior," Maya said in a low voice. "Well, how are you going to punish me then?" Sean shoved Maya into the control room and shut the door. Maya laid on the ground with a lazy smile, and as he turned his head sideways, he saw a zombie's head in front of him. "Don't tell me you did this." "I did." Sean hefted up Maya's back, circled around his shoulders and hauled him up from behind. He dragged him over to the sofa and began to check on his wounds. The bleeding of his severed arms and ankle has stopped, his wounds have recovered on their way here. Sean stared at his severed limbs, kneeling on the ground, quiet. Whenever he recalled the moment Maya's arm was chopped off, he felt his own world was torn apart as well. He turned his face away, couldn't get himself to look at Maya. Even now, in front of Maya, he is still a weakling that could not even protect himself. He's no rights to sympathize him. He won't be asking him whether if the wounds hurt either because he knows, for sure, it hurts more than a normal person could bear, and that the pain that will sear on his memory. "I wonder how does the nerves connection in the prosthetic limbs work? Hey, tech soldier, you should know about it, right?" Since it's a project working under the Central Academy of Science, Maya used his left leg to kick Sean's butt. "I'm not a tech soldier, I'm a reserve. And I have no idea how the project works because I'm just an apprentice, not a researcher. When will the reinforcements arrive?" "In an hour." "Ha, let's pray that the tides won't blast off this place within the hour," Maya scoffed. Life and death no longer matter to this man, I have less than 3 years to live anyway. Perhaps I could get off the front line with these glorious injuries? Sean tightened his fists subconsciously. He could have guessed that Maya's top-notch skills were not gained from sole talent, but also from years of training and experiences. And the more skilled he becomes, the shorter the time he's left to live. Sean remained silent. "Hey, is my hair all right?" Maya asked solemnly, as though he has just recalled something very important and began to tidy up his hair. "You have a beautiful hair." "Really?" "Yeah, it was your hair that caught my attention when I first saw you in the base's cafeteria," Sean said earnestly. "Really?" There was a perk in Maya's voice. When it comes to his hair, this guy can turn from a top-notch soldier into an idiot instantly. "Yes." Sean ran his fingers through his hair gently. Feeling the smooth and comfortable touch to his fingers, he felt a sudden lump in his throat. Right at the same time, the communication device on Maya's wrist started beeping, followed by a calm and commanding voice, "Open the door." "It's boss, open the door." Maya lifted his chin towards the door. Sean hurried over to the door and pressed the unlock button. As the door slid open, Heine stepped into the room, carrying the container with Manson's head in it. As cool and stern as usual, with a dangerous aura revolving around him. Sean thought he would show a different look when he saw Maya's condition, but the man had the same aloof face. "Hey, boss. I'm still alive." Maya waved his hand, sounding triumphant. Heine nodded silent. "They're dead," Heine replied, lowering his eyes slowly. For a second, Sean felt a surge of silent sorrow from this man. However, one of them was killed by Sean. "I'd have been dead if it wasn't for this fellow." Maya had an earnest look on his face, as though it is extremely important to let Heine know Sean saved his life. "No. Actually, it's because Maya tried to protect me." As he was speaking, Heine appeared before him. He cupped the back of Sean's head with his hand and pressed him against his chest.